Let's be brutally honest for a moment. The entire world of finance, the system that dictates whether you struggle or thrive, is built on a secret that a powerful few have guarded for generations. But that secret is now spilling out into the open, and what you are about to hear will fundamentally alter everything you thought you knew about money, value, and your own future. A seismic leak has just torn through the highest levels of global finance, a document so confidential, so explosive, that it threatens to dismantle the very pillars of the current economic order. And this isn't a theory, this isn't a prediction, this is a direct look at the alleged operational blueprint for the single greatest wealth transfer in human history, focused directly on the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong. I am talking about the leaked dinar and dong redemption list, a document that has sent the entire GCR community into a frenzy. But this goes far beyond online forums and whisper networks. This is about the concrete, actionable steps that, if authentic, outline a meticulous plan for the long-awaited revaluation of these currencies, a plan set for a monumental shift in 2025. For years, you and I have been fed dates, promises that evaporated into thin air, leaving behind nothing but frustration and doubt. But this is different, this feels different, because this leak doesn't just promise a rate, it outlines an entire process, a logistical framework so detailed that it names international banking partners, specifies tier levels for exchange based on the volume of currency held, and even details the compliance protocols that must be followed to convert your dinar and dong into tangible, life-altering wealth. Imagine walking into a designated redemption center, not as a speculator, but as a legitimate investor, and presenting your currency, not for its current, almost negligible value, but for its true, trade-weighted value, a value that reflects the immense natural resources, the booming youthful population, and the strategic economic potential of Iraq and Vietnam, nations poised to become the next global economic powerhouses. This leak suggests that the current exchange rate is nothing more than a phantom, a placeholder, a deliberate illusion maintained during a period of post-war reconstruction and economic realignment, and that the real value, the intrinsic value backed by oil, gas, minerals, and immense human capital, has been waiting in the shadows for the green light, a green light that this document implies is now scheduled for 2025. The list itself, which we have spent countless hours verifying and cross-referencing with trusted sources in the international banking community, points towards a structured redemption process designed to prevent economic chaos, starting with large holders, the so-called whales, and then systematically moving down to the individual investors, the people like you and me who saw the potential when no one else did. This isn't a free-for-all, it's a controlled, orchestrated monetary event intended to stabilize the new financial system, not break it, and your understanding of this process is your single greatest advantage. The implications of this are staggering, reaching far beyond the fortunes of individual investors. This is about the orchestrated decline of the petrodollar system, the rise of a new, asset-backed financial architecture, and the empowerment of developing economies that have been systematically held down by the old world order. The Iraqi dinar, backed by one of the largest oil reserves on the planet, and the Vietnamese dong, backed by a surging manufacturing economy and vast rare earth mineral deposits, are not just currencies, they are the keys to this new kingdom. And the leaked redemption list is the map that shows you how to use those keys. The countdown is no longer based on hope, it is based on a tangible, albeit leaked, document that outlines a timeline, a procedure, and an outcome that aligns perfectly with the geopolitical and economic shifts we are witnessing in real time, from bilateral trade agreements moving away from the US dollar to the rapid development of digital currency platforms that could facilitate such a massive exchange. This is the context that makes the 2025 date not just another guess, but a plausible, even likely, horizon for a shift of this magnitude, a shift that would make the stories you hear about people becoming millionaires overnight not just possible, but a structured part of a global economic reset. This leak is the missing piece we have been waiting for, the piece that connects the dots between the political statements, the banking reforms, and the tangible reality of wealth in your hands. Now, let's pull back the curtain even further and address the million-dollar question screaming in everyone's mind. Is this leak actually real, or is it just another expertly crafted piece of disinformation designed to separate the hopeful from their money? I have spent decades navigating the shadowy world of high finance and intelligence, and I can tell you with a conviction that comes from cross-referencing deep-level sources that this document possesses a level of internal consistency and logistical detail that previous false flags simply lacked. It doesn't just throw out a fantastical exchange rate, it meticulously outlines the how, and that how is what gives it a chilling credibility. The list details a three-tiered redemption process, a mechanism designed by financial architects to prevent the kind of hyperinflation and market panic that would occur if everyone tried to exchange their currency at once, creating a controlled release of new wealth into the global system. Tier 1, as outlined in the document, is for the sovereign nations, the international funds, and the central banks that hold massive volumes of these currencies. They will be the first to exchange at the highest rates, effectively setting the new baseline value and providing the initial liquidity for the new financial system to begin its operations, a process that is meant to be silent, happening behind closed doors far from the public eye. Tier 2 is for the major corporate and private institutional investors, the entities that moved billions into this asset class, and their redemption will occur through pre-established, private banking appointments, solidifying the new currency values within the global corporate landscape and triggering a cascade of new investments into the Iraqi and Vietnamese economies, funding infrastructure projects that were once just blueprints. Then, and only then, does Tier 3 open for the public, for you, the individual holder who has safeguarded your dinar and dong through years of uncertainty. This is the phase where designated exchange centers, often referred to as wealth management hubs within the league, will become active, allowing you to present your currency and your identification for verification and exchange. But the document goes deeper, specifying that this isn't a simple swap of paper for paper. You will be presented with options, a choice to take your value in the new, revalued currency, in a hard currency like US dollars or euros, or to have it deposited into a new, asset-backed digital currency account, a format that aligns perfectly with the global push for central bank digital currencies and a more traceable financial ecosystem. This level of procedural detail is unprecedented in previous leaks. It speaks to a plan that has been wargamed and stress-tested for years, accounting for variables from bank liquidity to international anti-money laundering protocols, which is precisely why it's gaining so much traction among analysts who have been skeptical of every previous announcement. The leaked list even implies specific, albeit unofficial, rate ranges that are being discussed in these top-tier circles, figures that align with the long-held projections of a dinar value that reflects Iraq's actual oil wealth and a dong value that mirrors Vietnam's explosive economic growth, moving from fractions of a cent to a rate that would legitimize the investments of millions. This isn't about getting rich quick. According to the framework of this document, it's about a global recalibration, a correction of historical imbalances that have kept resource-rich nations artificially poor and have concentrated global wealth in a handful of Western currencies. The process described is a controlled demolition of that old system, and the redemption list is the detonation sequence. The authenticity, therefore, isn't just in the paper it's written on, but in its perfect synchronization with real-world events, Iraq's recent graduation from Chapter 7 sanctions, its new international banking partnerships, Vietnam's strategic trade pacts that bypass the US dollar, and the quiet but consistent upgrades of its financial infrastructure. All of these are preconditioned benchmarks that had to be met before this plan could ever be activated. The leak, therefore, appears not as a standalone fantasy, but as the final piece of a puzzle we have been watching assemble in slow motion for years, a logical and terrifyingly plausible culmination of geopolitical and economic trends that can no longer be contained. The evidence is no longer just in the whispers, it's in the actions of nations, the flow of capital, and the undeniable logic of a global economy that cannot continue on its current path without collapsing under the weight of its own debt, making a reset not a matter of if, but when, and this document makes a compelling case for that when being 2025. So, here you are, standing at the precipice of what could be the defining moment of your financial life, armed with knowledge that less than 1% of the world's population is even aware of, and the single most critical question now shifts from what and when to the only thing that truly matters: what will you do next? This is the moment that separates the passive observer from the active participant, the dreamer from the architect of their own destiny, because possessing this information is worthless without a concrete, actionable, and immediate plan to navigate the window of opportunity that is now cracking open. The first and most non-negotiable step is to secure your currency physically. If your dinar or dong is not in your direct, physical possession, in a safe, secure, and private location that you control absolutely, then you are already at a severe disadvantage, as the coming days and weeks will require you to be agile and ready to move without needing permission or access from a third party. Do not leave your currency in a safety deposit box that can be sealed by government order, or with a dealer who might face an overwhelming surge of requests. Your wealth must be in your hands, because when the signal is given, time will be the most valuable commodity, and hesitation will be your greatest enemy. Secondly, you must immediately organize your documentation. The leak makes it abundantly clear that this process will be one of the most compliant and scrutinized financial events in history, meaning you must have pristine, verifiable proof of where you acquired your currency, with receipts, bank slips, or notarized documents that create a clean and undeniable paper trail from the moment of purchase to this very day. This is not the time for vague memories or cash-in-hand deals from a decade ago. You must reconstruct your purchase history now, because when you walk into that redemption center, your legitimacy as an investor, not a speculator, will be paramount, and any question about the origin of your funds could delay or even derail your entire exchange process. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, you must disengage from the noise and the panic. As this information spreads, the landscape will be flooded with fear, misinformation, and bad actors seeking to exploit the confusion, so you must anchor yourself to a single, trusted source of updates, a lighthouse in the coming storm, because listening to too many voices will lead to paralysis and costly mistakes. Your mind must be clear, your plan must be simple,